These events, Usagi would be initiated into Lord Mifune's personal army, and thanks to Gunichi's personal recommendations and his stories of Usagi's bravery, Usagi would rise very quickly through the ranks and become a high-ranking samurai leader. And for a while, Usagi's life was very good. He was happy as Lord Mifune's personal bodyguard, and he developed a very strong bond with Lord Mifune, just like he did with his friend Kenichi. Unfortunately, that happiness didn't really last, because by this time, the shogun were beginning to gain a foothold in Japan. And because of this, because of the shogun's rise to power, Japan was in a complete state of anarchy and civil war. And one particularly nasty shogun general named Hikiji. Hikiji wanted the lands that Lord Mifune owned, and when Mifune refused, Hikiji sent ninjas to assassinate him. Fortunately, the ninjas didn't kill him, but they came very close, and if it weren't for Usagi and Gunichi, then they probably would have succeeded in killing him. Unfortunately, Mifune survived, but unfortunately the ninjas succeeded in murdering his wife and child. And when this happened, Mifune became very much enraged, and he was determined to destroy Hikiji's army. And this led to a very sad and catastrophic event in Usagi's life. 6 months later, Lord Mifune would start a battle with Hikiji's forces, and they would fight on the Adachigahara, I believe that's how it's said, plain. The battle started out pretty strongly for Mifune. His tactics were really getting a foothold in the fight, but unfortunately, some of Mifune's forces double-crossed him, and they started working for the shogun. And when this happened, Mifune's troops were being absolutely destroyed by the shogun forces. In a large hail of arrows, several of Mifune's troops were struck down, including Mifune himself. Usagi, who was traumatized by the event, took his sword and sliced off Mifune's head off of his dead carcass, so that the shogun wouldn't take his head and display it on a pike and dishonor him. When Usagi was running from the battle, he actually encountered the shogun leader Hikiji himself. When this happened, Usagi went into a blood rage, a berserker rage. He became extremely angry and furious, and because of this, he left himself open for several deadly attacks from Hikiji. Hikiji struck a blow to Usagi's head that, if the rabbit wasn't wearing a helmet, would have instantly killed him. Unfortunately, it left a pretty big scar on Usagi's face, but that was enough to make Usagi realize that this was the time to run and not fight. So what he did is that he ran off into the mountains with Lord Mifune's head, and he buried it somewhere where nobody would find it. When he returned to the battle, he realized that Lord Mifune's forces were being absolutely destroyed by the shogun forces. He tried to fight them off, but in the end, he ordered them to retreat, knowing that there was no hope for a victory in this battle, and that all the morale was pretty much lost. After this horrible event in Usagi's life, he became a ronin, aka a samurai without a master. But that wouldn't actually stop his adventures. Shortly after Usagi became a ronin, he actually started an entire group of warriors that would defend feudal Japan from all kinds of threats and evil. He would make friends with a rhinoceros bounty hunter named Gen. He would also join forces with a female samurai Tomoe and her lord Noriyuki. He would team up with a priest named Sanchibo and the deadly lone goat and the kid. And then there was a blind samurai who was also a pig, that was named Zato. And then there was another samurai he teamed up with named Nakamura Koi, and then the fox thief Kitsune, who is also the leader of her own clan named Shizu. And there's not a whole lot to say about Usagi past this whole part. He would just go on to have lots of really epic and powerful adventures throughout medieval Japan, and killing bandits and, you know, fighting evil and crime wherever it lurked. And that's about all there is to Usagi Yojimbo. And I have to admit, despite this not be him not being a well-known character, in fact, the only reason why a lot of people know about this character is because of his appearances in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons, which I have to admit is pretty odd since he really doesn't have anything to do with the Ninja Turtles whatsoever. I mean, yeah, he's an anthropomorphic Japanese fighter, he's an anthropomorphic animal Japanese fighter, but I mean, still, I find that kind of strange that he's now known as a supporting character for the Ninja Turtles. I don't know, but all I can say is he's an awesome character, and all the comics of his that I've read, I have thoroughly enjoyed. And that's pretty rare for an artist who has been doing a character for 10 years and the comics are still epic and fun and, just good old-fashioned harken back to the classic, a good old-fashioned homage to like the classic 50s and 60s samurai movies. That's why I've always loved Usagi Yojimbo comics. And I really hope that maybe one day this guy gets his own cartoon, or hell, or maybe even someone makes a movie about him. You never know. Well, everybody, this has been my last lesser known but awesome heroes. I really hope you all enjoyed it, because I enjoyed reading up on this guy and just making this video. So hope you all have a good weekend. See you later.